And Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, also a commentator on political and social affairs. You're most welcome, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo.
Thank you very much. Good evening, my fellow panelists, and good evening to all the listeners.
3 lawyers in the studio tonight. One lawyer. Honorable Wanyoto, what do you read in these desertions? The army, people deserting in the army, are they careerists, like the army says, or what is happening?
I think that what I've learned is that the army has been having a combination of officers, including those that they are calling auxiliary forces. So when they talk about desertion, I think they need to unpack and categorize which ones. Are they the ones that they have been professionalizing? Because there's a campaign to professionalize the army. When you go through the ranks and get trained, and at the army is your calling as a profession. But we also have those that are ended up in the armed force and the armed conflict by virtue of their regions, but also by virtue of the situations. We have people in northern Uganda and in the Teso sub-region who joined the army as auxiliary forces. You remember the Arrow Boys, the Amuka? Those are people that had actually been amalgamated into the army as auxiliary forces when actually their calling and intention was never to join the army. So if you can know whether they are part of those who found themselves in the army by situations, so now they want to go back home and live their normal civilian life so that they are properly disbanded from the army and stuff like that. But there are also those I suspect, because I've been working in the region, we've been having Ugandans from the army join missions in South Sudan, I mean in the DRC missions, in the Congo missions, in Somalia. They are paid better. So they are paid better. When they come back, they find when they come back, they find huge accounts on their bank accounts and big money. And then they come back with the little money that their traditional pay should be giving. They begin having a debate in their mind whether to go home and manage the money they made while they were away. Because when they are on mission, like in Mogadishu and elsewhere, they're not paid from the field. They find the money on their account when they return home. So there's that debate of like, why should I stay here and earn maybe 100 or 200,000 in a barracks when I can actually go and invest and do business in my money that I made when I was on mission. So I would like to understand they should disaggregate and unpack this 400. But my own thinking is alongside those. The auxiliary forces, those that had gone to do missions and find themselves that now coming back home and joining the usual life is not worth it. They want to move on and do other things, and improve their lives. So I think, but then that sends a message, because like somebody said earlier, when they are deserting, what do they go with to the civilian communities? If they are moving out with bullets and guns, that's a problem for us, because then they are joining an unsuspecting community that is not armed, and therefore maybe they can end up misusing, and abusing the arms they run away with. So this is not a matter that should not be that should be taken lightly, because of how they live and with what they live, and that there should be more regular, better methods of work on how to engage the army to keep them, and those who want to go, there should be a procedure to disengage them so that it doesn't look like they are deserting. Deserting is a message, is a point to say that this is not where we belong, and I think that the institution of the army should be able to say that for them before. They should have a mechanism periodically to reflect and say who wants to leave, and then there's a mechanism on how you can leave and what you leave behind as you go and how you get into the community, because the life of a military person is so different. When you remember recently there's somebody in Ibombo that shot people,
10 people.
Yeah, so that these guys are not the normal wananchi in the community. They've been trained, they've been into front lines, they have experienced traumatizing experiences, people have died before them, and therefore they cannot just leave the barracks and join the community without a process. There must be some training, there must be some counseling for them to get back to a normal way of life of Ugari and Nyamachoma on the village. Otherwise you hear so many of these, because some of them are psychologically traumatized because of the nature of work. Those especially have been on front lines on missions, which is that's their job. So I'm not an arm officer, an expert, myself, but from experience and from working around some of these decisions, we realize that announcing deserters to the tune of 100 is an issue that the UPDF should look into and work out proper methods and mechanisms which people can live, because this is just something to say that maybe we want to live and this is where we belong. Because those who are professional, that's their calling. They always say in the army.
Nicholas, some people would say this is normal attrition. Police officers have the same problem. They recruit many, some of them drop off by the wayside. Is it normal attrition or is it something else?
Well, to say attrition is to presuppose that there are terms. I don't think an army man has a term of service. I think once you joining is easy, but getting out is much more difficult. But my sense of all of this is that it's nothing new. It's been happening all along. You know, I grew up in Gulu at the height of the conflict, and it wasn't uncommon to find, you know, an entire set of army uniforms plus a gun dumped by the roadside by a soldier who is fatigued by war, by a soldier who is stressed by the situation under which he was working. So this is normal. It's happened in the police force. You know, I can name names in the police force of people who may not have deserted but technically gone away because simply they found better places to work. You know, Dr. Yiga is one of them. Christopher Yiga is in, I think, is in Darfur. You know about the lady, the first lady ever to be an AIGP, Rodrigo. You know where she is. You know about people like Semeyo Kui. You know them. So it's normal. It's just a reflection of the difficulties that these guys face in service of our country. I think the promised revolution for the army and for many of these guys who work for the forces hasn't arrived yet. If you think it has, just take a walk to Naguru barracks, Zambia, and see the conditions under which our men and women who serve this country diligently live under. So I think it's a reflection of the problems that the men and women in our security forces are actually undergoing. I recently lost, a grandmother, and I went for burial, and I found a guy who luckily didn't desert, but because a gun got lodged into his back, a bullet got lodged in his back. He was allowed to go home, but he told me that look, for the 15 years he was serving, he was oscillating between the DRC, Sudan, Darfur, South African Republic. He never had
for 15 years.
Yes, he never had the joy of coming to Mbuya and perhaps just taking a smoke under a tree. So I think that the forces are overstretched, living under very difficult conditions, and for a long time really haven't, in my view, been really a professional force in the sense we are made to understand that they are now. I think that the promised revolution, the changes in the army just haven't arrived. But I'm also aware that, speaking about the army, and because David is here, many years ago got some friend of his in problems. But I will tell you, that's my sense. That's my sense.
Yes, let's hear from you, Doctor. And as you give us your own analysis, can you talk to us a little bit about what you might know about the disengagement procedure? How does one get out of the army, for instance? Well, would there be a high wall for them to exit?
If I tell you that I'm an expert in the disengagement procedure, and as far as UPDF is concerned, I will be a liar. But this desertion is not any different from if teachers decided to abandon the profession and join other professions and ride border borders to make more money, or if the medical workers decided to leave because of harsh conditions and the feeling that they are not appreciated for the hours they put in to serve the public. But that notwithstanding, we must acknowledge that Uganda has gone through so many wars, and many of those people have been part of each and every war, probably from the 60s, 70s and up to now. And the post-war syndrome of post-war trauma was coined after the First World War. That's when they realized that actually that wars change the psyches of men and women who participate in them. And so the Western world it came up with serious counseling programs, and I doubt whether we have those counseling programs. The African
post-traumatic stress.
The African machismo psychology is that if you fight a war and then you come, you start whining, you say I have this, they think you are weak. I think we need to have a paradigm shift. Let's move from this looking, man is a man, so you can't be shaken if you cry, or if you are traumatized by what, then you are weak. We need to realize that these are life-changing situations, and those who are not sensitive to those, probably to those bad situations, they are probably hardened people, and we should stay away from them. Naturally, a human being should realize that those are hard situations. But the questions we should ask ourselves, why? And the second question is, why now? In the past, we have heard that soldiers have been laid off, downsized the forces, we have reserve forces, but why are they coming up with the word like desertion? Which means these are guys who have said, look, probably they have requested or begged for so many years to be laid off, and they were not allowed to go away, and they decided, okay, let's go. But what we should be worried about is what I read about, that they don't hand over the military gear and the guns, which should be a concern for the general public. If they don't hand over the military gear and the guns, what are they going to use them for? Could that be a potential situation for instability?
Maybe you could read that. I don't know. Could read that for us. Do you think it could be a part of the explanation?
That could be, because someone told me, somebody in the forces said, for us, if you put your gun there and the gear and everything, you don't take anything, and you are not even an officer, in most cases we don't follow up. But now we are looking at people who go away with military gear, including the gun. There must be motive why they walk away with those items and not account for them. But we should also address our minds to the salaries, the mama ingia pole, those small,
corrugated, the iron sheet, they aren't even corrugated. The iron sheet.
Exactly. What is their welfare? Those are things that we must address. It is a world phenomenon that those who are engaged in bad jobs tend to be least paid. So, and really, military is a hard job. Some of us, that's why probably might be characterized as cowards. We didn't want to get in there in a harmful profession and where you are least paid. But one of the veterans told me, said, David, when we joined even Luwero to fight, we had a passion to liberate, but we had no calling to become soldiers. So none of us had anticipated that after liberation we would be allowed to go. But that was not the case. So probably we might have so many classes of those or categories of people who have deserted, and that is a question to be addressed by UPDF. I think this is the time for the Commander-in-Chief and the UPDF as a force to address this issue, to stop it from escalating, because it is scary to the general public.
If I just might add one other thing, just as to why this is more alarming to many of us who have been watching events. I mean, if you put one and one together, look at the Mboya, assault, we call it looting, somebody call it looting.
Yes.
You had cases of attacks on Bombo, security installations in Jinja, the police in Entebbe. That for me, in terms of trends, should actually worry anybody who cares about our security forces. They actually might be, if you piece these stories together, a link to perhaps an internal mutiny or exertion to another rebel group or whatever you name it.
I don't want you caught commercial, so we'll stop it. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about money, the presidential sack of money. There has been a lot of debate in both the local and foreign media about the sack of money President Museveni gave to some young men in the East. 250 million shillings, well in cash. Someone carried it on his head. He was wearing a suit. Dr. Mushabe, how should such monies be passed on? And is it the right thing for the president to go around giving out money like that?
I spent one semester pursuing an MBA. Then I realized that probably I'm not good at numbers and all that. But the few things I learned was that there is a way money is supposed to be dispersed for purposes of transparency and accountability. So
the sack is one of those.
The SAC was never one of them. So when I was watching the news and I saw this thing and the youth are dancing, the chairman is carrying the bag on his
and the drummers are
and they are dramatizing and the whole excitement. I said, wait a minute, is this the way it should have been done?
in this day and age.
And then what struck me, I saw the trees, the bushes, producing hundreds and hundreds of youth. I said 200 million, okay, that's a lot of money. But the people seem to be so many. So I started calculating, if you get 200 million, you divide, you give to those youth who are excited and they came to clap and all that, how much would they get? Would there be, of course in 1986 we got the word fundamental change. Would this money fundamentally change the youth? Oh, I wasn't sure. I was really confused. So I think we are addressing the issues of systems. Do we have the right systems in place? And accountability. Those are the issues of concern. But I saw here a question that some people have been arguing that this was an official launch for 2016 campaign.
Oh, you think so?
No, but
Since so far 2016 is very far away. Go on. No, it's all right.
These are the notes you collected from the people. You say some people say this might have been an official launch for 2016 presidential campaign. Well, I think from my experience in this country, the next campaign is launched immediately after the winning or announcing the president and the MPs. I have seen campaigns go on. They never stop. Except, I'm sorry to say, except for the opposition, because the opposition has to be told by the Electoral Commission, look now, this is the official time for campaign. But I have seen government campaigning from the day they have announced the winner to the last day of that government and launching into the next campaign.
Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, we finally found the answer to poverty. Give them a bag of money and poverty will be history.
No, what happened in Kizito district last Saturday was a handover of pledges that the president made earlier in his programs to the young people in the Busoga sub-region. So it was not actually for Kizito district alone. It was for a number of youth groups. In that sack, they were categorized amounts of money, bundles,
Inside the sack.
addressed to the details of the pledges, like youth groups of different districts and in different amounts. So I think
so there's some big stories inside. It was just
for me, the issue is maybe the joke around it being in the sack, but that the money going to already organized groups and fulfilling a pledge, I think that was in order. If you promise me to give me 20 million shillings from my youth group, then you bring it, that's okay. But so there are a number of youth groups in the Busoga sub-region, and by the way, not all of them, like Mr. Mushabe, Dr. Mushabe has said, not all the money was not enough really for all the youth, because they are for selected groups that merited to be given support, already operational groups. Because the cycle of young people, by the way, if you just take them through the process of getting money, they'll never get anything there because they want money. But the presidential programs for young people, they've been able to begin voting youth that are doing something.
Yes.
So that they're able to enhance what they're doing. But if you give somebody to start, they're having problems. They have all sorts of stories on how they are not able to start, but that's for another day. Now, the president, I was surprised as much as you are, because you know how it was dramatic it was, seeing somebody carrying
some big stories inside. So
no, of course I had to ask what on earth is this? But I got an explanation. The president said that in the past he's been able to work with groups because rightly so he has a vote on presidential donations and pledges. That is by virtue of his office. Edmond, if you became a president tomorrow, maybe God forbid. They vote for you to offer. I mean, to give pledges, a fountain of honor. You know, that is the office of the. So but in the past, according to him, because I'm not a president and I'm not his spokesperson, but we had to ask, because when I'm interested, because I mean this question will come back to us that support the president. So I'm told that in the past, groups that are deserving of this, like these groups that were in Busoga, because not every group got, there were those that were really deserving, and like these ones who got.
Right.
When they go through tiny channels, they never get their money. You know, the money disappears on the way. And I think that carrying money in the sack cannot be the solution. I think we need to get back to the proper rules to grow mechanisms and institutions that really deliver the money so that they are more accountable.
And in the meantime,
because if you ask me, really, solving money not reaching a destination for its work cannot be solved through delivery, through sacks. But I think that's understandable. This particular issue, Edmond, did not only drive the jokes on a social media in the Ugandan context, but it was a BBC item. I saw it on the Kenyan news. So I think something we have to talk about it. It's not something that we can just brush under the. So we need to deal with corruption and with the efficiency of officers. And really, we must know that Uganda is something obviously not correct about the way we are handling public funds, and that even the head of state cannot trust anybody. She has taken the money personally. I mean, to me, that chills me.
And of course,
and I really hope that for the youth not to shame him, they had better be the role models and have something to show to other youth in Uganda, because they were vetted, their youth groups. This money was in different categories in the SAC, so they went to different youth groups that merit to get support from a presidential pledge, which is a right, because the president has a presidential, by virtue of his office as a fountain of honor, he has a vote that handles donations and pledges to any cause. Right. So this was not he gives churches.
Oh yes.
If you are watching Edmond, he would give you some money if you merit. So he gives all sorts of groupings, because by virtue of his office is a fountain of honor.
If I can go there, we'll get back to Nicholas when we come back from the break. But we know that there's 9 billion shillings outstanding in presidential pledges. So the people who make sacks are going to be in business. This is Spectrum, Radio 1 news station. We'll come back with the money.
You have to go through me.
It's freshness that stays with you all day. The last. Try the range of Sunlight to Edmond washing powders for sensational cleaning and all-day fragrance.
Legitimate whiskey is different. I am proud that we can now enjoy quality and taste. And style too. I have not felt so original with the liveliness I get each morning after I enjoy legitimate whiskey. Everything seems to be going my way. This is a worthy discovery. Legitimate whiskey is blended from carefully selected Scotch malt, giving it a golden amber appearance with a silky smooth and southern taste for lasting satisfaction. Legitimate whiskey, a masterfully crafted blend, expertly blended, lighter and styled whiskey. Please enjoy responsibly.
Excuse me, what is this 300 shillings on my bill for?
That is for the tinted candles, madam.
And this 100 shillings?
That is for the air conditioning.
And this 200 shillings?
For the blue walls, ma'am.
I can't believe this!
Why pay for what you don't use or ask for? That's why we at Standard Chartered are introducing the Easy Go account, the first current account of its kind that gives you complete control of your banking charges. For more details, visit a Standard Chartered branch or call 0414 34 0077.
Would you like to leave me a tip, please?
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight we review the week. We've spoken about desertions in the army and why people are leaving. Some people think it's because of some auxiliary forces. They might find it too heavy a burden. Some have gone on foreign missions to escape hardships back home, and some are doing security guard work elsewhere. We've spoken about presidential sacks, and we'll talk about other things. Our guests tonight, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, two-time Ugandan representative of the East African Parliament, Dr. David Mushabe, senior partner at the Mushabe Munungu and Company Advocates, and Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, also a commentator on political and social matters. You can join us on this debate through Facebook. Go to Spectrum Debate and send your question or comment. You might not be able to call in tonight, or send a text message to 7197. That is Spectrum message, question or comment, 7197. Nicholas Opiyo, money bags and bags of money.
Well, you see, when this story broke out, in fact, the president's Facebook lady posted this 20 minutes after the money was given, and I tweeted back to her and said, look, what is this? To them, it's a PR scoop. The president is now being seen to produce to produce on his pledges. He's giving back money. We didn't know that this would turn out into an embarrassment, a PR disaster for our country. We are being mocked around the world. In the 21st century, we still deliver money in sacks. But I think for me, what surprises me is your reactions to it. I can relate to this kind of handouts. As a P7 student in 1993 or pupil, I was the lead dancer of a local dance group in my primary school, of Unified Primary School. At a function, because our group was very good in dancing, we were invited to welcome the president, and I was the lead dancer. And the gentleman signaled me and gave me an envelope full of money.
Oh, you've received presidential envelopes before, Nicholas?
It wasn't for me, it was for the group. It was for the group in 1993.
I understand your
The only surprising thing is from a small envelope now to a sack. For me, I think this represents what is immoral, what is unethical, and a lack of accountability in our governance. Because you see, it's the epitome.
You took the envelope, now you're condemning the sack.
Well, I didn't pocket the envelope, really. I was just a group leader, and I handed it back to my teacher, and a P7 kid, really. An envelope full of money means nothing, really, in our times. But you see, the thing then is, what the president has done represents what is immoral about the governance of our country. And I can tell you a story, that if you go to Bombo, there's a gentleman called Afande Bombo, who has, money in cash, in safes. And every month, soldiers from all over the country, who he has picked, go to see Afande Bombo to pick money on top of their salaries.
In the military barracks?
In cash. And if you think I'm lying, go to Bombo. I gave a lift to a soldier from a Cholpi camp, a Cholpi barracks, a 5th Division headquarters, on away from Moroto, and he was coming to pick his share. He told me this story. And you see, so this happens all the time, and that's why we think, that's the reason corruption, in my view, will never be fought, because if you have a president picking money and giving it in sacks, no receipts for it, no accountability for it, it's just immoral.
It's raining money in bags. Well, let's talk about something else, something that will probably calm down our blood pressure. Integrity and credibility of our leaders. Parliament has been hailed as an exemplary house, but we're seeing things that disturb the mind. A member of Parliament, Isaac Musumba, former minister as well, and another MP, Michael Mawanda, from Igara East, were nabbed in India, allegedly trying to extort $20 million. They have a different story, and we don't know if they're innocent or guilty. But there are other issues that have cast a shadow upon our Parliament. A man, honorable by title, went under the bridge looking for mercury. We don't know if he found it, if not, but at least he found handcuffs to take him to a prison cell. Bad debtors, MPs are borrowing beyond their means. Is that a good exemplary thing? The 5 million shillings they received to consult, some of them never left their homes to go anywhere. They took the money. And the treason, a member of Parliament on treason charges. Dr. Mushabe, what do you read? Does that cast a shadow, or are we seeing something that will bring a storm in a teacup?
Well, Edmond, read the story of these two honorable members held in India. They just represent our society.
Not my society.
The Ugandan.
Not where I come from.
The Ugandan, actually, our society. Because here, in this society, in the Republic of Uganda, leaders never admit any wrongdoing and never resign. That is what we have learned from our rulers. I wouldn't say leaders, our rulers. And that's why when they ask these gentlemen,
you have some rulers in your LC1. Go on.
No, we have rulers all over the country. A leader leads by example and says, I'm going this way, follow me. A ruler is the one who says, I'm doing this, but don't do as I do as I say. So we are seeing typical abuse of power. How do you hold? I know, and it has been justified that Honorable Musumba is holding a diplomatic passport because of this Arabic, Islamic.
Oh, I see.
But he should have surrendered that passport immediately after he lost the seat and he was not reappointed to cabinet. And I don't know how also an ordinary member of parliament, probably Honorable here will educate us. How does an ordinary honorable member of parliament, see, even among the honorable, they are ordinary. Yes, how does he place different from the passport that we have been reading about held by Honorable Mawanda? So that is irregular. So that is that points to the lack of integrity in our government, I'm sorry to say.
There's another man called Ezra who also had a diplomatic passport, and he was also, in a sense, Mr. Money Bags. Let's talk about integrity, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. Does these cases I've just read out, do they cast a shadow upon our parliament, or is it just dominating up?
Well, they have been able to be clear that they went in their private capacities, were not involved in parliament, so we should be very clear that they were not executing parliamentary duties, and therefore the institution of parliament, while one of them is a member of parliament, we need to draw a distinction that he can be held accountable as an individual, not the institution of parliament. And I like what Dr. Mushabe said, that and Secretary was trying to deny, we really represent the communities where we come from. Parliament of Uganda as an institution really stands out. It has parliamentary rules and procedure. It has even a committee that handles issues of rules, what I'm calling in literary language, manners. But at the end of the day, we are a collection of Ugandans from our communities, and then we gather and compose a national character that is supposed to abide by the decorum of the chair of parliament. Now, we are not homogeneous, and oftentimes you find that there are people who may not meet the standards of that document called the rules of procedure and the decorum of parliament. And that's why there's that committee, because if you fall short of that, then you have to go to that committee, refer to answer some questions. Because by and large, of course, having an institution that has over 375 people, you do not expect angels. That's my humble analysis, and I'm being only realistic and fair to my analysis. But that does not mean that parliament as an institution has fallen short of its integrity and its decorum, because really it's there. And there are people, let me be also fair to members of parliament. There are many members of parliament and many Ugandans that live to the letter of the integrity and the really want, but sometimes they are submerged by the neighborhood or the environment. So I think, yes, Honorable Mawanda, by virtue of his status as far as I'm concerned, he's a member of parliament, and therefore he's entitled to an official passport. An official passport in Uganda is green.
Green.
Yes.
Green in color.
Honorable Isaac Amsumba's status has been explained. I think because, you know, Dr. Mushabe, as soon as Honorable Musumba did not make it back to parliament, this job with the Arab community was already progressive. It did not happen yesterday. You know, it's a campaign that can even go for a year, because as somebody's contract is ending, like 2-3 years to come, candidates begin emerging world over. Then you keep going by block. So he was identified by Uganda, and therefore he needed that type of passport to be introduced to many forums as they went campaigning for him. So if the government of Uganda nominated him as our candidate way back, I think that was one of the documents that was supposed to facilitate his campaign in all the forums, and I think that is positive. Number two, of course, if you went to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, you may even question that why is the former minister maybe drawing per diem or whatever, but that's what we do for our candidates. If government must facilitate your nationals if you are going to compete for that level of job. Actually, some countries, I don't want to mention them names here, but they even give them what do you call it, subsistence. You go and hold the meetings, dinners, teas,
entertainment
to campaign along with your Minister of Foreign Affairs, so that you market. And at ESC level, we have actually made it an ES. We have a desk in Arusha to market nationals for international jobs. So in as far as that is concerned, I think we did a good case to facilitate Musumba being a guy, because we've been complaining that Ugandans are not supported. I'm one of those that really complains about Uganda not supporting its nationals to grab international jobs. Now the challenge is using the diplomatic passport, and that's what I've explained, for a personal trip to India.
Yes.
I don't know where you're getting me.
Yes.
That's where I think you'll have a challenge. But if you have an international passport, they have explained it. I think it was one of those things that I'd be proud of my country to have done for a national whom we are promoting an international job. I don't know whether I'm being understood.
I think you're very clear.
Yeah,
really.
so, yeah, that's it.
And of course, you're one of those people flying the flag for us this year in the Kenyan election.
Yeah, I'm an eminent East African Ugandan, so really, when you find don't begin asking, because I'm Ugandan space, and I think by the way, I have two passports.
The green and the red.
I have not blue. I have an East African passport that is ordered in the Great Lakes and also in Comesa. So normally when I'm traveling for private work, I'm very conscious not to use the passport. I use my East African passport because it works for me to do many things without causing a lot of exciting.
It's the same passport as you go and as you come back. Some people might use two different passports on the same trip. Nicholas Opiyo, let's talk about the other issues. Are we reading too much in this? A man tried to find mercury under a bridge. The last time we checked, it was a lot of flowing under the bridge. This man tells us there might be mercury.
All the cases you're citing are cases in court, and as a passing advocate, I would be hesitant to discuss the details of those cases, including this Musumba matter, even if it's a foreign court. I think that to discuss the individual cases is to miss.
What proof you have that they're in court?
Well,
Nicholas,
you want me to give it to you?
In court.
There's been an official statement from Ministry of Foreign Affairs that these people are safe and that there's no charges preferred against them as far as that's the official statement from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So,
well, I was
Nicholas,
denying the rest.
Can I make my case?
Let him continue.
I don't know why you're defending me.
No.
I was in Parliament and the
I have to
statement.
defend him, Musumba, because if he was here, I would defend me if there are allegations around me that are not clear. That are not official.
I was in Parliament and the statement made by the Honorable Kelorian to the effect that they were not free men like me and you. They were under,
There were a few questions.
some kind of arrest. Yeah, and in my view, a court process begins from being arrested. And I think that it's not out of order to say so. But I think to discuss this individual people is to miss the big picture. I think that what David and the Honorable Lydia are saying is that I am as bad as Musumba because it represents this society. It's an insult to our listeners.
I never said
Can
that.
I just say they represent our society?
Go on.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
For example.
I think for me, it's a case of a lack of character. It's a case of a politics in which the bad guys have just taken the day. Not necessarily because our society is rotten. I don't think Ugandans are thieves and go to con money the way they do, or go to dig bridges the way these guys have done, or MPs who go and begin to commit acts of treason allegedly. I think that Ugandans are better than that. What I do think is that our politics, and that's why Lydia has fallen off the road. she can't stay in the heat. These guys,
She's to claim for the eruption.
she just can't. She tried. I had her talking when she was being pushed out. She was near losing her voice because she's honest, she's smart, she can't play dirty. The truth is, people who have amassed wealth illegally, all kinds of manners, have bought votes and are now in our politics. It doesn't therefore surprise me that MPs find themselves in this kind of nonsense. I think thirdly, what I think is happening is simply lack of character and leadership, not our people's problems. It's people, individual persons. Because even in that parliament, there are lots of good people. Even in Musumba's constituency, there are lots of good people who are completely opposite of Musumba. So I think that to discuss these cases...
Why are you saying Musumba is a bad man?
I'm not saying he's a bad man, but we're not like him.
They can't buy salt. They can't buy salt at the same speed as like we need to
Con 20 million shillings.
We need to move forward. Very briefly.
Edmond, I differ from my brother's submission here. Why is it that the one with more money is the one who wins the election? And why is it that the one who gives out more goodies during election is the one who is most likely to win?
Or give tax of money.
Or give tax of money.
Mr. Moneyback.
That goes to the core of our morality as a society. We even sell our votes. And those who have mastered the art of buying votes are the ones who are in Parliament. But that I'm not saying that Parliament has only bad people. There are a lot of good members of Parliament there. But it so happens that the majority who are swaying the whole ocean in the Parliament, the wave is created by the bad apples.
All right, we have to move to something else. Incidentally, the argument about the diplomatic immunity held by Isaac Musumba was rejected by the Indian government. They say the law must take its own course. Let's talk about succession. Dr. David Mushabe, the Indian government said, forget about diplomatic immunity, let's talk about the law and justice. The widow of Dr. Stephen Malinga, she eulogized him at his funeral and says he was a comedian. But he said that she wants to take away from him her beloved husband. Well, he says she used to love to, crack jokes at home, so he called her a comedian. Now she wants to take away from that dear husband, apparently husband of hers. Is succession politics coming home to us? Alungat Oromai took over from her father. Kendu Chamzi handed it over to the daughter for 5 years. Chandilu Nebana took over from the sister. Dr. Chimige Sevunya gave it to his son in death. Is there succession politics coming, or is it something we should be worried about, or is it something we should ignore?
Well, for me, this is sad. When I the more I think about it, the more I feel sad. I'm sorry about the future of this country. It demonstrates that the electorate doesn't know the issues that they should address their minds to if this country is to move to a higher level. They look at the personalities. And really, in African politics, if we have lost someone, rather in African societies, if you have lost someone, everybody feels sorry for you. They bring what they call mabugo, and nobody can afford even to upset you. So we bring this same mentality to politics, which politics affect the whole nation. The MP you are sending to Parliament is not only an MP for that constituency, but is an MP for the entire nation. They don't address the issues as to whether or not this person they are saying in Parliament is capable of representing them and articulating the issues that are facing them, and also the issues that are facing the nation at the international level. So our electorate, I'm sorry to say, majority of them, and I want to concur with Nicholas here, not all of them, but majority of them look at personalities. They don't address the issues, and that's where I see Kenya moving ahead of us. Because right now Kenya is addressing issues, for us we are addressing personalities.
We'll talk about Kenya in a short run. Lydia, is it a misnomer? Is it something that should not be happening? People taking over from their blood relatives. Is that something we should be concerned about, or is it something we should let happen?
What has been happening in Uganda, maybe also elsewhere, is that political office is run and supported by family members, and sometimes, listening to Mushabe, maybe after that, sometimes it is the community that tell family members. It's also a way of sympathizing with the bereaved family, to say maybe if you continue in that position, that's what I think, is that maybe you will feel about the position of the deceased. It's a kind of consolation agenda, because I remember beyond what you have given, like the late Wanyoto, the wife became a member of Parliament. So I kept asking why, and the Karamjo community did not really go out and campaign and vote. The cultural leaders sit down and say it is Mushabe, that's it. You can campaign your voice first, they will not vote if they've chosen. So I have a feeling that we have extended our sympathy, condescending bereavement arrangement to stay within the family, because normally they leave it to the family to choose who should be replaced, at least for that time of office. Let me tell you, if you follow this, except for Sevunya, if you follow these members of the family, most of them lose the next general elections.
Yes.
I think now the mourning is over, and it's like bring the seat to a level competition. That's that's my own make of this. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I'm beginning to think that the community wants to support the family and to make you lead them through that term they've given you, a member of the family. For Malinga's case, there were several members of the family, but they had to sit and agree on which one, because they were telling them, is it the daughter, is it your son? They were telling the son, instead of go back to America, the boy said, now I have to go back. They were jumping on one, so they had to stand agree on the family, where there are a number of family members. So it's not about the immediate, but they choose. And my thinking is that because they want to sympathize, or it's part of the condolence arrangement for the family, but the next generation, the 16, that would have went up, and you really have to face the fire of everybody else.
Nicholas Opiyo, is there a danger to it?
Does it matter what the cause of death is? Because I think then if I'm an MP, I should be worried.
I was like for an agency where they said, a foreign company, international company, where they said if you die, the money that they were going to pay you, your wife should not even know about it. They should never read your contract.
Because they'll contribute to your death. But let's not begrudge these guys who have come back to Parliament on the back of the death of their beloved ones. I think they have a right to contest for elections like everybody else. What I think we need to interrogate is, do they actually qualify to serve the people of their constituency? I think in all but one of the cases, which I think was a mistake, this young girl from Musuk, I think that all the rest, in my view,
19-year-old.
Of course, you can put them up there and say they can represent their people. That for me should be the basis of our judgment. But I also think that the fact that you then have this happening too often, and it's not just in Uganda, in many parts of the world, George Bush,
it's all over.
It's kind of a family thing. People just kind of tend to trust some family friends. So I think it happened. But I think what we should be asking ourselves for the case of Uganda is that, is there something wrong with the structure of our politics? Okay? Our elections held too soon after the death of, say, a powerful man in the family. Even before the family has cried enough and overcome their loss. I think that perhaps we've got to understand that context and begin to address it. Because the reason, even before Malenga has stayed in his grave for 2 days, the Electoral Commission was announcing dates for campaigns,
They have to meet the deadline of the 60 days.
Yeah, but 60 days, we've got to understand.
Because elections is a process. You have to display the voters register, you have to do nominations.
Yeah. But we've got to understand that does that process produce for us people who we think, can represent their people?
All right.
In my view, I think that maybe not.
Let's race. Thanks, Nicholas. Let's race towards the end. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, together with his deputy, side by side with sleeves rolled up, shirts without jackets, ready to plunge into the work. They announced their cabinet the other day. They first announced 4 people representing the 4 regions, then they gave out the other names. They said the only politicians in the group were the 2 of them, the rest would be technocrats. Is that the way to go? Do we have lessons for Uganda?
That is the way to go. When you consider the principle of separation of powers, it becomes necessary, and that's where I give the Kenyans credit. At least they have realized that when you're a member of parliament and a minister, any issue, you belong to the executive and the legislature at the same time. An issue that is presented against the executive, you are inclined automatically to defend the executive because there is conflict of interest. At least I see the Kenyans have advanced to a higher level of political awareness, whereby they are saying, look, let us have the executive, they're executing policies. That is the implication behind the word executive.
Their job is to execute, to carry out.
And the policies are made by the legislature. Now, you can't be the one making the policies and at the same time the one executing the policies.
They've had separation of powers.
It's one separation
so
of powers.
So the politics has matured. Technocrats
it has matured. And we should take example from the Kenyan situation and not appoint ministers from the MPs who have won their seats. If that happens...
Or who have lost their seats.
Or who have lost... But who have won, and they are in parliament, but at the same time on the executive.
Honorable Lydia, which I think I would get from your wisdom and of experience, you've been at the helm of the East African community. You worked these
Make
elections?
it sound like she's been there for 30 years.
Well, you can give us, you're the only person who's worn those shoes. Tell us, is there something we can learn? Kenya and Tanzania as well.
Yeah, of course we can learn.
Uganda and Tanzania.
There are enough political offices in Kenya now. There is the Senate, which is going to look at the bigger picture for Kenya, the policy, the governance, like a bird's view of what's happening in Kenya. Then the Parliament, the National Assembly, that does the day-to-day stuff. The bridge is broken here, my hospital is not on. Those ones, that's the Assembly now, and the budget and those things. Then you have the governors, the counties, that deal with actual service delivery. You know this school is not operating at a local level, at an eyes view level. And so there are enough politicians in Kenya, but they also now have policy people that are heading institutions, the state secretaries who used to be cabinet secretaries who used to be then what you'd call cabinet ministers, and they have no other job but to drive and develop policy and support the president and the deputy president. I think it is going to work, but I wanted to mention that the fact that Najib Balala and
Charity
politicians have joined government. They lost in their respective seats because they were supporting Jubilee, and I think that's a good thing also for us. I mean, if we agree on to work, you do not turn your promise because you reached there and somebody. So I think they've lived to their promise that they are going to work with the team of the four, because in their coalition they had the leadership of the two principals, Uhuru and Ruto, but they also had the Najib Balala and the Charity Njiru. I'm happy that they've been able to put on their friends, because normally people don't really keep their promises, as you all know.
We have to go. It looks like Obama rule is down in Africa. It sounded very, very American. Cabinet secretaries and so on and so forth. Without a hat.
Well, they promised.
Thank you very much. Lydia, to tell me that reserve the subject. Thank you for tuning in. I've been host Edmond Kizito. Welcome back on Monday.
I'm at home with my crew. The boys are waiting to watch the game on the telly, but the chicks want to go to the beach. So how